following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Bronx Roots with David Hubler and Michael Preminger. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm happy to talk to my buds on a Sunday morning. How are you?
Okay, very good. How are you?
Good.
Michael?
We talked off the air.
Great.
This is something
great.
I've got to hear, Michael, before we forget. Your grandson is hitting the ball, and I love it when there's kids enjoying baseball.
He loves it. He loves it, and he's in T-ball, which means obviously they hit off a tee.
Right.
But he hit 3 shots yesterday that were just he hits the ball hard where the other kids hit it, but he smashes the ball. And
nice.
Now he has an advantage in that his father put up a batting cage in the backyard.
Oh.
Yeah. Indeed.
So he's out there swinging a lot.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. It was a dream of his father's. And when they bought their latest house, it has a big backyard, and that's one of the reasons they bought it, so he could have room to put up a batting cage. So often my grandson not only hit off the tee, but my son-in-law pitches to him. And he just
How old is
he just turned 5.
Oh, well, he's ready. Yeah.
Ready? Yeah. Now, I know I'm a grandfather bragging, but
that's fine. We love it.
But he's good. So far he's good. Now, at the age of 6, he may decide he wants to switch to badminton. Who knows? But right now, he's hitting that ball better than I ever did.
If I remember, you played with the Falcons, didn't you? You played with that team.
I have so little memory of it. So maybe I played a game or two. My only memory is what's his name? Oh, your friend David, who likes records, who knows not Howard. I forget now. Anyway, Roger Gould was playing right field. There was a kid. This is very important now to know the name.
Tell Ralph where you played, though. That's what's important.
Where we played?
Yeah.
What, Harris Field?
Yes.
I don't.
That's
okay.
Very interesting.
I swear, I don't remember. Anyway, this guy was playing. I can't remember his name. So he was catching, and he got hit right in the groin, right there, boom.
Ooh.
And he's lying, and he's in pain, and he's like screaming in pain. And Roger Gould ran over from right field, and he says, and everybody's around this kid, and the guy goes, "Are you okay?" And I thought that was the dumbest question. I mean, he's passing away in front of our eyes. It's, "Are you okay?"
That's one of the worst feelings there is. I mean, you just want to roll up and die when you get hit like that. I mean, you're nauseous, you're in pain, and you curl up into a fetal position, and you just,
yes.
It's awful. It's awful.
Well, let me tell you a story. There's a big league catcher that was playing for the Giants. His name is Przinski, real long name. You guys would recognize it. And
AJ Przinski?
He gets hit under the cup. He's catching, and he gets hit under the cup, and the trainer comes out and puts his arms around his shoulders and looks him in the face and says to him, Does it hurt? How does it feel? And this is a true story. Brzezinski knees the trainer. This happened about 10 years ago, right in the nuts, and says, that's how it feels.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yep. You could Google that and catch it. Not a nice trainer, but the trainer asked a stupid question.
That was. Are you okay? Does it hurt? Yeah. How do you Google that?
Just Google.
Catches.
To spell the catcher's name is difficult, but actually, if you just type in a bunch of words, Brzezinski, a bunch of letters, catcher, hit with foul ball or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I'll try to find it and I'll send you a link to it. It's.
I was so naive when I played. My cup had a handle on it. Very bizarre. But.
I wanted you to mention Harris Field because that's how Ralph and I sort of hooked up.
My earliest, I could not for years think of the field. My grandparents lived in the Bronx, and my grandfather had a routine in the mornings from Valentine Avenue, 256th Street and Valentine Avenue. Whatever time it took to walk up, it must have been about a 15-minute walk to walk to Harris Field. And if kids were playing, whatever, he just enjoyed the field being it could be empty, and he just give me the idea that it was fun to be where it was grass and dirt. That was the basic of being a kid, and any sport that was there, we would sit and watch, and he just loved baseball. And David, you mentioned that in 1951 you went to Yankee Stadium for the first time.
Yep.
I went to Yankee Stadium for the first time in 51 too. My parents went to Europe for a long time. My father was a diamond dealer and traveled, and they left me with what they called the Bronx. He'll be fine. The Bronx is taken care of. My grandfather and my grandmother. And so I spent long days, summer days at Harris Field. And it's just a good memory. So I couldn't think of the name of this field until I met David. And you have a great memory for names.
Yeah, I don't remember where it was.
Yeah, it was a little past Clinton and past over where Bronx High School of Science is now. I remember that was all big open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
by the way, Howard Block, I think.
Oh, Howard Block. That no relation to Martin Block, right?
No.
You mentioned records. I was thinking of. Remember Martin Block?
What was his thing? What was Martin Block in the
Make-Believe Ballroom?
Thank you. Ooh.
Yeah.
Very. Did he play rock or?
No, he played like what they call now, the American Songbook. He played a lot of the Sinatra, Cole Porter, things like that. Whatever was in those days. The top 50 was, nobody broke into the top 50 with rock and roll until, 55, 56, somewhere around there.
Right.
And the rest of it was Perry Como and Sinatra and Tony Martin, those guys.
Yeah.
And then,
WNEW.
What was the first rock and roll? Was Chuck Berry, I guess? Would you say he's the grandfather of it, guys?
That's what they say.
Yeah, I visited the Sun Studios in Memphis, which is I mean, you walk. It's a small place. It could be an ordinary little shop on the street, but it it was like walking back in time because they had all the old guys walked. Old guys. Elvis Presley walked in there one day, and he was. They have all these, tapings of all these guys playing together. Presley and what's his name?
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. No, I don't think Johnny was one of them, but he was there sometime. But
Carl Perkins.
Carl Perkins, right? He was one of them, and it was just an amazing place because the front part was like where the studio was, and then there was the back where the engineers worked the board, and that was it. That was the whole place.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing plan, and the music that came out of that one little building was remarkable.
Yeah. There's a show. I think it was on Broadway. I know it's a show that's had a lot of road companies, and it's based on like one session at Sun Studios or maybe a few sessions, and I think it's four guys doing. One is Elvis, one I think is Johnny Cash, one I believe is Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yep.
And the other could be Carl Perkins, and that the four of them.
And I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, there was another guy there who had some early hits, and wasn't Waylon Jennings, but it was somebody like that. Anyway, it was just an amazing. All four of them were just became icons.
Yeah. Now there you can go on the YouTube or whatever I did the other day, and there was Carl Perkins doing a concert, and this was years after the Sun Studio things, and there he was doing a concert with George Harrison and Eric Clapton.
Wow! Yeah.
So he was a lot better. Or he never became nearly as famous as the other guys, but obviously he was. Didn't he do Blue Suede Shoes, and then Elvis?
Carl Perkins, yeah.
Covered it
for Elvis,
and so did my cousin Arthur. He used to do it also. Blue suede shoes.
Well, he's the one who had the blue suede shoes, didn't he? Bought a pair of Tom McCann's on Jerome Avenue.
That's right. Tom McCann's. Whoa. Where are the old shoe stores today? Where's anything? No more Toys R Us is going out of business.
No more delis.
Yeah. No more delis, no. And Toys R Us is dying after killing all the mom and pop toy stores. And hobby stores. All those little guys that used to sell, model railroad track and all this stuff.
Yes.
They're all gone.
And the guy who started it just passed away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like a few days after they announced that they'd be closing.
Sure. What better time to die? And he had 3 businesses that all went belly up eventually, but all made moves. I can't think of the other 2 offhand. But that was Toys R Us was one of them, and then they had 2 others after that.
Yeah.
And then he died, and that was the end of the story. But I never liked. I had to go. Obviously, when you have grandchildren and then little kids, first you have the little kids, and then they become big kids. Anyway, and so I never really cared for that store. But I remember going into. There was a toy store on Jerome Avenue. Well, like everything else, there was a toy store on Jerome Avenue. And the people who owned it really were very nice, and they knew all about the toys. You go into Toys R Us, and then there's something back there on the shelf. It might be what you want. It might not be, don't bother me, kind of thing.
Right. No, the mom and pop stores are...
Yeah. What was we'll start with you, Michael. What was your first toy that you really liked as a kid that your parents got you?
Ruth.
She was the cleaning woman.
What?
She was the cleaning woman. You can't.
No, she lived on the second floor. No, Sherry, not Ruth. Sherry lived on the second floor, and I used to play with Sherry. And oh boy. As a matter of fact, Mary, who was the cleaning woman, used to tell me how much Sherry liked me, but I didn't know. And Mary would say, "Well, do something." And I was too young to know what that meant, and I still regret it, because Sherry and I could be living happily ever after. I had an erector set. I remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you erect?
And it was a favorite toy, and I never put anything together because I'm mechanically a moron. And so my
but it had
mother
those wooden centers in it, and it would go from. I remember an erector set. What did you have, Michael? What was your favorite, or David? What was your favorite store?
Well, I had an erector set too, and it was, if you recall, the erector sets had the more complex they were, the higher the number. I think it went up to 10. The numbers of the erector sets you could buy, and I didn't have a number 10, but I had the one that included the electric motor, so you could build a Ferris wheel, and you could actually build one of these bridges, that go up and down over the river. And because he had but the thing I remember, one of my favorite all-time toys, of course, was my Lionel trains.
Oh, me too.
And I was fortunate enough to have an aunt. She really wasn't my aunt. She was a friend of my real aunts, but she lived with them. The three of the women lived together, and she worked at Lionel. And she would take me down there around Christmas time to the company offices where they had huge displays of trains. I mean, and these guys were in the back room. Today they'd be considered technicians. I don't even know what they were called, but they were in the back, and they would be, some guy would be looking at a passenger car. Let's see, they'd look at it and turn it up and down and up and down. It wasn't working properly. So he'd reach into one of these little drawers and he'd pull out some kind of little, maybe a light bulb or a little attachment or something, so the car would hook onto the car behind it or in front of it, whatever. And they had all these little parts, and they had all these cars and engines. It was just like you would see in a real train repair kind of place. Only it was, of course, in miniature, all these Lionel trains. And every year I would get a little addition to my Lionel train sets, which my father, he mostly, and I'd help, would set up the Lionel trains on the living room rug. And we'd have them out there for several days around Christmas time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
There were two facets of training. One was the HO trains, and one was Lionel. So some of my friends had HO trains, and I had Lionel, and I loved them, but there was something about HO trains. You can get many, many more, given their size, many more setups in the limited amount of space that an apartment gives you to set up. So, but they weren't anywhere near as realistic as Lionel.
Well,
and it wasn't just trains. It was, they'd sell you the overhangs and the little mountains and what have you. The direct. So you set up a terrain, so to speak.
Yeah, and my favorite one that I got one time was the Station Master. And as the train went over the tracks, the little door would open, and this guy would come out on a little track and he had a little lantern, right? And it would wave, and then it would go back in the house, and till the train came back around again. That was a neat little extra that they had.
That was one of my first jobs, actually.
You were small when you were very little.
Yes, I was very short. Yes.
To to a midget, you were a midget.
That's right.
He was. That was what, on the Woodlawn Jerome Avenue line? You did that on...
Yes, exactly. Yes. That was the last stop.
I'm glad you progressed, but it's a start. It gave you a work ethic. Swinging that thing. You've been swinging that thing.
It taught me discipline. And
right.
And
every day, how many swings did you have to put in before it became natural? It was like...
11.
Okay. Warm up. So your grandkid inherits this swinging thing, and that brings us...
Oh, yeah, that's right. He does. Yeah, very good.
Is he your son or daughter's little boy?
My daughter's son.
Oh, okay. And your only child?
No, I have a son, but he doesn't have any kids as yet. Neither does his wife, actually.
Which makes for a peaceful relationship along those lines, because one has a kid, the other one doesn't. It becomes complicated.
Yeah, well, I just and my granddaughter, I don't want to talk. She'll probably be starting dance lessons, which, of course, that's what many little girls do.
Yeah, very cool.
And that's cute. That's cute. But about 3 of them become ballet dancers. Did you ever go with a ballet dancer, David?
Dated one? No. What? No.
No.
One of them, a great failure.
The bun in the back of their hair that used to drive me crazy. You know, you could always tell a ballet student in Manhattan, because I say anywhere, but I'd be walking the streets. That doesn't sound good, does it? I'd be walking the street, but and they would near Lincoln Center, and the girls their feet would turn out, and their hair was pulled back, and they had a bun on the top, and those were all ballet students.
Were they walking on tiptoes like all the time too? I mean,
almost. Almost.
So they were pretty tall then too, I would imagine. You know.
Probably one of the most famous ballet dancers is Maria Tallchief.
That's right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
she was a Native American.
Yes, she was.
I remember.
Was she from Clinton?
No, she didn't go to Clinton. She could have later on when they made it co-ed.
That's right.
But at first, no. We had a couple of guys that walked on their toes every once in a while, and we thought they were a little odd.
You had one guy that you mentioned on a show earlier this morning on the George Case show, and that was a guy who I saw come in to the Garden to play in either the holiday festivals, the NITs, with Loyola of Chicago, Jerry Harkness.
Yes,
I was going to say, I'm rooting for that team.
Me too.
Of remembering Jerry Harkness.
Right.
He
graduated the year before us. But
I remember scoring that game in the Garden with Jerry. I can't, for the life of me, I can't think of some of the other players from Chicago that were Loyola of Chicago. Okay, they were terrific.
They interviewed a guy named Les Hunter. Yes, good call.
Yeah. I watched part of it, but we were at a restaurant, so the sound wasn't on. But I did see him. Yeah.
I remember playing for the city champions, city championship in the Garden, if I'm not mistaken.
What, you were there?
Or was that later with Willie Worsley?
Willie Worsley then went to play for Texas Western, right?
Yes.
I think so, which was
all black.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. In that article, they played a team in Kentucky or something.
I think
that's right. Adolph Rupp's Kentucky. But and they were the first, I think, all-black team.
Right.
Yes.
Big article in Sports Illustrated.
That's right. Yeah, they were the first, because up until that point, at least the Southern schools wouldn't even play against a team that had black players on it. So for many years, that Southern SEC, those the one or two other those Southern leagues, they were nowhere in basketball because they wouldn't play against the Northern teams that were integrated. Exactly. So they never got to the NIT. They never got to the NCAA for that very reason. Maryland, the University of Maryland, at one point was really in a dilemma because they did want to play integrated teams, but there was something, if they started to play integrated teams, they might get kicked out of the. I forget all the details, but the University of Maryland was on the cusp of, they were right there almost on the Mason District line, if you think about it, and so they had a problem with integration that the Southern schools didn't have because they weren't integrated. They just said no, But,
and you can imagine how many kids got overlooked and never signed to professional.
Oh, wow. I never thought
yeah.
That's right.
Sure.
Right.
Wow.
There are only a few coaches that Red Auerbach, I know, got Sam Jones out of a little-known school, and they have coaching connects where they'd be able to find these kids. But were it not for that, Red Auerbach was progressive along those lines. The other teams in the NBA were not at all, and you'll find.
And it's so interesting because Boston was such a racist city.
Yes,
that's another thing. It's amazing that they could have the first time 5 blacks played in the pros on the starting lineup. Guy from your NYU, David, was Satch Sanders.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And but my point being that it's you wouldn't think it because Boston was horrible. They were horrible to Russell.
Horrible.
I read some stuff about fans coming in and defecating in his
I didn't.
In his master bedroom and what have you.
I had read that.
That was
incredible,
really,
but he's
David,
the
was
Knicks
telling me that Russell's quote, "I'd rather be in jail in Seattle than the mayor of Boston."
Is that right?
That's what he said after getting out of Boston. Yeah.
Oh, how interesting!
Very racist town.
Yeah. It's interesting in the sense that we're talking now over 50 years ago, and some things have changed, a lot of things have not. But the point is that it's half a century ago. Where does all the time go? This is what always amazes me. I mean, I hear things that talk about, in 1968 we had the Chicago Democratic Party convention, and you say, yeah, I remember that, sure, yeah. Well, it was 50 years ago. What?
I agree with you. It's very scary to me.
Yeah, I mean, growing up.
I do. I hear these numbers, and I go, oh, that was like just a little bit ago. And then you go, no, that was 30 years ago.
That's right. I heard that this morning. Yeah. Somebody did something in the 1990s. I forget what it was. And it was 25 years ago. Wait a minute. The 1990s was just like last month.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was Sherry who started her.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Public address announcing career in San Francisco.
Yeah, you would have enjoyed that, Mike. She was the first woman PA announcer in Major League Baseball, and she did the Giants games from Candlestick Park.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
charming woman.
Yeah, the years is just...
I know.
I mean, here we are talking about 1963.
Right.
Very
like it was last year. Yeah.
Oh my.
Well,
God.
you can judge it in the ages of your children. My kid is 27, born in 1990, and it's amazing. It's like a click of the fingers, and
yes. I'll give you another great example of how time sort of has altered. They say, Einstein said time is warped, and that really seems to be true when you live through this sort of stuff. When I was at NYU and I was the co-editor of the newspaper, we had a staff, of course, and we all got together for our 50th anniversary in 2013. We met in a village, and we had a 50th anniversary dinner, luncheon. And I was saying to some of the people, do you realize, of course, that if we took the same 50-year period and superimposed it over when we were the student editors, and we had the comparative group having a luncheon, it would have been the class of 1913.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
wow.
Yeah. You say, whoa, wait a minute. 1913, that's ancient history. But it was, 1913, 1963, 2013, and boom.
That's
they
right.
100 years. Where did they go?
We
that's
talked about
really...
this on one of the shows, David, that in our early years, say 1951, when my grandfather was telling me about how it was in his day, he was talking about Ty Cobb, which was maybe 25, 30 years before 1951. Now, if we look back 25, 30 years, even those players are retired or dead. The Ripkins, the guys that we followed in the 80s, 25 years ago, that would be like my grandfather looking back at Ty Cobb.
Yep.
So it goes fast, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys, we talk about Mays and Mantle and Snyder, and so that's in the 50s, but it does seem like not that long ago.
Right.
It's
Well, I remember, now this is a story I've never forgotten either. There was when I was working the evening shift one day. This was in the 70s, and this kid was a real basketball fan. Loved the NBA and all this sort of stuff. Played all the time. I think he played on his high school team, and we were talking. And I mentioned, I said, Bob Pettit. And he said, who? Yeah, I mean, already the name had disappeared from these young kids. Yeah.
Right.
Bob Pettit, one of the great all-time basketball players. Oh, I never heard of him. Goes fast. Fame goes fast.
That ages us, right? Well,
yeah.
I just want to say I have Sister Jean is now a big star, so to speak.
Oh yes.
Yes. And my mother was a Sister Jean. I just wanted to bring, because she had 4 brothers, and her name was Jean. So these are the things I think about. So she was a Sister Jean, and I'm very
it's
proud.
funny. I was lying in bed last night, half asleep, and I'm kind of mumbling, and Talie says, "Well, what'd you say?" I said, "Whatever happened to my Aunt Gertie?" who I just put 2 and 2 together. She was reputedly the one, it was my mother's Aunt Gertie, that introduced my father and my mother. And I was thinking, well, I know how Aunt Gertie knew my mother. How did she know my father? I'll never know. But
You'll never know.
Putting time in. How did she know him? How to introduce him? things like that go through my mind. Gertie's been dead for 40, 50 years, for crying out loud.
Oh, so that's
my
what
father's
happened
been
to
dead for 40 years. It's the little things that stick in your mind that you can't get out.
But whatever happened to Aunt Gertie sounds...
Well, talking to... Yeah.
Version of whatever happened to Baby Jane.
That's right.
Whatever happened to Aunt Gertie.
Aunt Gertie.
Aunt Gertie, I thought of her because my cousin David comes out of law school, and his first case has to defend my Aunt Gertie to get fired because Aunt Gertie had flatulence at work.
Moving out. Check, please.
So my poor cousin, who later became a judge, his first case is to go, to represent Aunt Gertie with some sort of board. Well, she's got a problem, but fire her. Anyway, life is what it is.
Well, we've talked about these kinds of things every once in a while, but that was a period of time when, especially, I'm going to say, I might be wrong, but I know only from my own experience, is that Jewish families who were first, second generation Americans, they never talked about their past. They kept secret virtually everything. Even if somebody died of cancer, it was considered almost like a mark of Cain, a shanda. You didn't talk about what happened. I have cousins who didn't know that their father had previously been married for many, many years. And the greatest example of this concerns my wife, Rebecca, and I. We were dating, and first time I introduced her to the family, I said, this is Rebecca Summer, which was her maiden name. And nobody batted an eye. It was fine. It was only years later, we had to have been married maybe 15 years or so, that the whole story came out. My grandmother, whom I knew as my grandmother, was actually my step-grandmother. My grandfather had a first wife who had died in the influenza epidemic in 1918, I guess it was, and as is custom in the old Jewish tradition, he married one of the sisters. So that woman became my grandmother. I knew her only as my grandmother. But the rest of the story is that my real grandmother's name was Rebecca Summer.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And nobody said a word. My mother knew.
Wow.
I don't know if my father ever knew this story. My uncles knew, my mother's brothers, who were actually her half brothers. But nobody batted an eye when I came home. I said, "This is Rebecca Summer," and because that was her maiden name too. And the first name was Rebecca.
What a great story.
Yeah, but they kept it all. Yeah, I mean, these are the
incredible coincidence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I love that story. That is wonderful.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And to this day, I don't know who in the family actually knew or didn't, because they've all passed away. They're all gone.
I'll tell you, I almost got a chill. My grandfather lost his
name Rebecca Summers?
No, he lost her in the supermarket, all right? No, she died at childbirth to my Uncle David. And he got remarried, and my grandmother gave birth to my mother. But I found out at David's, at their golden wedding anniversary, that David was a half-brother of my mother.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right.
Same story. Right.
Same exact story. My grandmother raised all three kids. She had two, my mother and my uncle, my other uncle. She raised them all, and it wasn't until we found out, because he was 52, and it was at the time, and we started putting two and two together, and the story comes out because the kids weren't supposed to know stuff like that. It was
right.
Why hide it? But that was the generation, and
that's right. That's right.
Of doing things. So some of I could explain a lot of behavior in the different cousins and what have you, just based on my grandmother wasn't involved in ruining their lives. In the same way, because they knew, not ruining it, she didn't ruin, but she was somewhat of a character, which, to say the very least. Yeah, things in those days about full disclosure, and there weren't records too. A lot of the records got lost. Like, my grandmother never knew her exact date of birth. We would she knew it was towards the end of November. We would celebrate her birthday on Thanksgiving.
Sure, natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever watch that?
My mother was an adult. She thought she was a Christmas baby, born on the 25th. To a Jew, that's a big thing, being a Christmas baby. But it turns out,
like the first Christmas baby. Yeah.
Right. He's pretty much the same, except, so it turns out her birthday was the 23rd, and she didn't even know it until she was an adult, and she went for some records or, whatever it was, and she found out about it. It was just a different age.
Yeah. Well, my mother never told anyone how old she was. I have a picture of her in her one of her elementary school classes with the whole class, and in those days the girls wore these pinafore things with like navy ties and stuff, and they had the little board there in the front with the class name and number and everything, and she scratched out the two last numbers of the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember going. In fact, I remember distinctly. We went over to PS 94 where you went for voting one time, and she was registering to vote, and they asked her age. She said over 21, and they accepted that, and she was very vain about her age, and I think I've taken after her in that respect, because I don't talk about my own age, even though I can talk about things that happened 50 years ago. Which sort of gives people a clue.
You don't talk about your age, David?
No.
I love being 71. I think it's a privilege. First of all, the fact that I made it is almost comical. I'm 70. Ralph Zig. Oh no, he didn't make it that far. Nah,
couldn't have gone. Not the way he lived.
No, not that I shouldn't have lived this long. But the fact that I have the memories, and I still remember the memories. I'm glad. I'm not just glad, but I appreciate old age.
Well, I don't know whether it's unusual or not, but Michael and I, of course, are contemporaries, and so don't say how old you are. But among our friends, almost to a man, we're still up and kicking. And I don't know whether that's unusual or not, but we've all reached pretty much the same age we're all we were not baby boomers, but we were the first to come out, but we're wartime babies. War babies, yeah. And if anyone listening, there's the Korean War. So, but I don't want to give away.
Not the recent Korean War. The one.
No. But the point is that I think every once in a while that and as I said, with rare exception, all of the kids I grew up with are still around, which is great.
Yeah.
One of the biggest.
I guess I've lost some folks in my life, and I guess that's what makes me think that it is a privilege because there are people that don't make it.
Yes. All right.
Well, like I lost my brother last year.
Yeah,
he was 70.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
one of the biggest laughs I ever got was 4 years ago. Maybe it's 5 years ago. I was lucky enough. I opened for my friend Richard Lewis in Caroline's in New York. And I was having a great show, and so I felt very good. I said, "Guess how old I am?" And some guy shouts out, like 75, and I went, "Can I be honest with you? Go fuck yourself." Place went crazy. Crazy. One of the biggest laughs I've ever had in my life.
That's funny, yeah.
Can I be honest with you? Go fuck yourself. Strong message to follow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jackie Leonard comes back.
Right, yeah. Well,
that Jack was a funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
With that clicker. No, that was Jackie Vernon.
I'm talking about Jackie
with
Leonard.
The clicker was on his vacation. Yeah.
Right.
With Joe,
like seeing the pictures and what have you.
Oh, yeah. The slideshow kind of thing. Yeah, the clicker.
Right.
Yes.
But one of the greatest put-downs of all time, and Mike, you may have seen it, maybe you did too, Ralph, when Jackie Leonard appeared on the Jack Paar show. And Jackie Leonard was a rotund comedian.
Oh, yeah.
And Jack Paar went at him about his weight. And Jackie Leonard would say, "You better stop it, Jack. You better stop it." And Paar continued. And finally, Jackie Leonard said, "Well, speaking about fat people, Jack, how's your daughter?"
Oh!
Yeah. And his daughter was a very fat young kid, maybe, she was 12 or 13. And Paar literally boiled up onto it was black and white TV. You could see him turn red on a black and white television. That's how bad it was. Oh, he never appeared on the Paar show again.
I can imagine that.
But years later they dated, he and the daughter, I think.
Well,
things
stick in your mind about comedians and stuff on these shows. I think it must have been Merv Griffin, and Charo was a guest, as was Jackie Vernon. And Charo was married to Xavier Cugat, and he was 20 years older than her, or some ungodly age, like I'm 20 years older than Talie. So it must have been horrible. But Jackie Vernon says, or Merv Griffin says, "Do you ever worry about, when you're making love, somebody could just keel over?" And Jackie Vernon goes, "Well, if she dies, she dies."
That's a great old joke. I don't know if maybe it came from him.
I think it came from him on that. First time it came into my head, anyway. That's it. He may have been using an old joke. In other words, he may have been using an old joke.
Yeah, could have been, but it was funny anyway.
That's she dies.
If she dies, she dies. There's so. This one just reminds me of this one where a woman's at the doctor's office, and her husband's out in the waiting room, elderly couple. I'll clean it up a little bit. And the doctor says, well, there's nothing I can do for your husband. The only way he's going to live if you give him oral sex. She says, what? He says, it's the only way you're going to live if you perform oral sex on him. She goes, oh, okay. She goes on the waiting room, and the husband says, so what did the doctor say? And the woman says, he says, you're going to die.
Well, I got to tell you something funny. You're talking about, we weren't talking about it, but this has to do with bedside manners of your doctor, right? My grandfather's sick. He's in the hospital, and he's at Brooklyn Jewish. And cousin Sam is the specialist, the heart specialist at Brooklyn Jewish. A genius of a doctor, can diagnose anything. And he's got a roommate, does my grandfather, who's got a lot wrong with him. And Uncle Sam comes in to visit my grandfather, and Mrs. Bernstein says, so, doctor, is there any hope for my husband? Anything you can tell me encouraging? And my Uncle Sam, in front of my uncle and I, we looked at each other, says to this woman, look, I told you, if the cancer doesn't get him, the heart problem's going to get him. He's a goner. Stop already with asking these questions. That was literally the bedside manner.
Oh, boy.
Don't worry, if the cancer doesn't get him, the heart's going to get him. He's a goner.
Thanks for visiting.
Yes, come again. Bring candy.
Right. Yes. So, I guess
the other joke where the doctor says,
I don't think it's changed. I don't think there's a course in medical school in communication, in bedside manner, and talking to people.
Here's one for the bedside manner where the doctor says to the guy, you have 10 to live. The guy says, 10 what? He goes, 9, 8.
That's very good. What was the one about you have 6 months to live, but if you can't pay the bill, I'll give you another 3 months?
Yeah, right. Right. That's the lady.
All right, guys.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just saying I'm looking at the time, and we got about 50 minutes, and that's generally what we like to get. Tell me something. Close it out. Either of you two guys. Be cathartic. Use this thing. What's going on in the world today that you want to comment on?
Well, I think that these marches are that they had yesterday. I just hope that they will lead to something, because and then the other side, you pick up the paper today, or and on the internet it had that the NRA is putting down the marching, and you go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What? How can people still? Wow. But maybe this generation of kids will bring forth change.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
According to the polls and everything, I was reading in the Post today. The up and coming generation is like us in the '60s. Very liberal, very much interested in social movement progress, and very much against Trump and his people. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, and that's that Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. It's interesting, but it's frightening at the same time. Very much.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Well, I have a bit of a sense of pride in the school in Boynton, not boarding.
Parkland?
Parkland, but
Parkland, yeah.
the school is where my brother raised his family, and my two nieces and a nephew attended that school. And one of the nieces is a journalist. Her name is Talie, and she wrote a very interesting article about having been a student there and now covering it from the situation from that standpoint. If these kids go on to make a change, it'll really warm the cockles of my heart because this has to change. This mindset, if it's okay to kill, to have a school shooting once every 2 weeks is absolutely ridiculous. And the only thing that's going to change it, as I see, is changing this system where the Congress isn't indebted to these big lobbies, and it's not just the gun lobby, it's the pharmaceuticals, and it's that and the other thing.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah, no question.
It keeps them getting reelected. The money that they get from these people get them reelected, and that's all they seem to care about. So whatever it is, it's not working. You have to eliminate influence of lobbyists, and you got to cut down on the terms, because once they're in there, if they get embedded in accepting from this person and that person and that person, they can't make a clear decision on what's right or wrong for their constituents.
They're not interested in the constituents anymore.
I know.
It's the money. It's the money. Yeah. And, one of my former colleagues at Voice of America posted something about the kid. I forget his name, the one who's been from the school. He and the girl have been very, very active and very, very well spoken, I must admit, about leading this surge. And he said something to the effect that he'd vote for him for president now. And I've been seeing this kid. He's a good-looking kid, very articulate, and I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have a political career ahead of him. That might even eventually lead to the White House. The pictures of him today would be the kind of pictures we saw when we saw photos of Bill Clinton shaking hands with JFK, if you recall.
Right. I do. That girl certainly, if not run for something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're both incredibly articulate and very bright, and they have no fear in front of a huge audience. That crowd yesterday here in Washington was far, far bigger than the Trump inaugural. Mr. Trump may not believe it, and his White House spokeswoman might not believe it, but you just look at that crowd; it was enormous.
Yeah.
And
there were like
person, by the way, turns my stomach every morning.
Oh God, yes. Somebody posted a picture on Facebook in the sort of sourpuss face. Yeah, I know. Ugh.
Yeah. It's just the attitude of just denying everything that comes forward, as if where are these people? These are journalists. They're paid journalists working for newspapers, working for television stations. They're not making this stuff up.
That's right.
Every morning it's not fake news.
It's only the fake news that comes from her.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Okay, guys. Thank you for at least making my life a little easier, because I could get this stuff off my chest.
Good. Okay.
And I enjoy your company on Sundays, both of
you. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Yep.
Great. We'll be back next week, same time, same bat channel. And I want to thank everybody out there for listening, and ask you if you wouldn't be kind enough to box up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program wherever you are. there are kids that need to read. And especially in these programs where books and learning is the last thing. A lot of times these families are just looking for a way to survive. So if you would, bring some books over there, get kids school ready, get them some imagination, and help get their noses out of the devices. And reading's a wonderful thing. Speaking of reading's a wonderful thing, before I go, David, I hope you're still here. Tell us about your book. Refresh people about your book and where to get it.
The Nats and the Grays. It's a story of professional baseball, black and white, in the Washington, D.C. area during World War II. It's a history of not just what happened on the field in the Negro Leagues and in the major leagues, but also what happened in and around the White House, the Congress, and how events overseas during the war affected the teams, the players, and just society in general at that particular time. It's available. It's called The Nats and the Grays, and it's available from Rowman and Littlefield Publishers. You can order it online in paperback now at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or go into your local bookstore and have them order a copy for you. I think I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Michael, we have a rooting interest now in your grandson. Would like to see him play high school ball and college ball, and
hopefully we'll be around.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time.
Damn right, we're going to be around. Got to see how it all
You bet. Yeah, you bet.
For sure.
Thanks. And I have a pamphlet out. It's called My Life as a Menorah Salesman, and hopefully.
8 chapters in that book, right?
That's right. And if you'd like to just come and knock on the door, I'll give you a copy.
Okay. You'll leave a candle burning in the window, right?
That's right.
Okay.
A shamus.
Yes. A shamus. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm glad we're ending on a happy note, on a good note.
That's it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Nothing happier than a shamus lighting a candle on a Friday night. Be well, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.